get into like talking about your new record. I want to say your videos are freaking awesome on Instagram.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, tell me about that. Like, was it difficult to teach yourself how to do Final Cut, or because I saw like
Uh,
I think Vic Firth, like their company was even was like showing some of the videos and stuff. So I don't know. I think what you're doing is really cool. So talk to me about it.
oh, thank you. Well, I don't know. I basically my thought is like now if you put out music and you didn't video yourself recording it, like did it actually happen? you know?
Yeah, yeah.
so,
But you're really good at it.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I think part of that is just like I just video it and then think about like what I want it to sort of look like and then just figure out how to do it. So
Sure.
I wouldn't say that I'm like an expert video editor yet, but I just basically type it into the internet.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I do this? And then it spits it out and
Well,
hopefully tells me the answer.
yeah. Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, I feel like you know you're right. If we don't post any photos or videos about what we're doing, then nobody's gonna have any idea. It's like it doesn't exist or something. So
right.
it's weird. Yeah. But you have to do it.
Yeah.
So talk to me. The record's called. I had to reach out and have you on the show because you've done some drumming for me for my music, and I wanted to talk to you about the record. I know you're a drummer, and I've known you as a drummer, but sort of what inspired the record? What inspired you to go into that world of releasing a record when nobody seems to be releasing music anymore, or putting out like full records?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. First of all, I've never done it before, and I grew up listening to albums and records or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, and it's always sort of been a goal of mine. So I just figured that like now's the time to do it. And I mean, I've been on it for a couple of years too. So, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you should put out a record. Oh, you should put out some music of your own." And my wife Kate, who's a fantastic pianist, she has a band called Trio Kate, which we've talked about that before.
Uh
But
huh.
she was like, "Yeah, you should, seriously, like, just think about putting out some music of your own." So when I was conceptualizing the whole thing, it's like, okay, if I were to put out an album of my own, what would I actually do?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I like so many different styles of music, and I play drums.
Yeah.
It's like I could put out an album of just me blasting away on the drums, but that's not that interesting.
Well,
you know?
you did a really good job. I mean, you're playing. I want to play one of the tracks right now.
Okay.
It's there's my two favorites are AM, FM, and then World Champions. I really like too because it's kind of got this sort of Dire Straits Money for Nothing beginning.
Totally.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so that was the whole concept for the album was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do an album that's like every style of music I like to do.
Okay.
Like like there's a lot of just jazz stuff on the album, which I love to do. And
Right.
then there's like all this stuff that's like, AM/FM kind of has like this like classic rock, blues vibe to it, like Led Zeppelin or something. And then
Right.
yeah, 1985 World Champions is like everything I love and hate about the 80s.
Right. 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 Right.
All in one song. So,
Well, let me play. I don't know how if this is gonna like feedback or what, so I'm gonna I'm gonna play it, and then I want to talk about it. Okay.
okay.
Let's see how this
Should
goes.
I maybe mute my end? Maybe I'll mute my microphone over here, unless it's not even coming through your monitors in your room.
No, I can hear it. We're good. Can you hear it at all or no?
No, I mean I can hear it through your headphones, but that's about it.
Okay. guitar is great. Obviously, the drums are great too. But
Yeah.
here, I'm gonna go ahead.
I got the
Nice. So, what was it like? I'm gonna play it in the background. What made you want to go? You went full out. Like you did vinyl and making CDs, and in a world of people just like downloading off of Spotify and iTunes and stuff. So what was your thinking with this? And I'm sure a lot of it is just you're so enthusiastic. You want people to just grab it and listen. But what was your thinking about the release?
Yeah, I mean, part of it again is like, I mean, I almost think of like putting out a CD now is like it's like a glorified business card of sorts, you know?
Yeah,
It's like I recorded all of this in my home studio, which you know what the drums sound like here,
totally.
'cause, from your music that I recorded for you. But yeah. So I think putting out a CD is like a business card of sorts,
Hmm.
especially when I do it all in my home studio. So that was sort of part of it, but it was also like I just wanted to put out some music of my own. I've played on so many other people's albums and done gigs for so many other artists. And sometimes, especially in Los Angeles, the world of Hollywood, you sort of get typecasted sometimes.
Yeah,
Like actors get, oh, that actor's this type of character.
right.
So that happens with drums too. It happens with every instrument. And the truth is, I just love playing so many different styles. I don't really categorize myself as like one genre or one type of drummer. So that's kind of why I did this. But I guess to answer your question, I think people are buying albums again. People like the idea of buying something real that they can hold in their
Yeah,
hands. Maybe not a CD since people don't even have CD players anymore. But a lot of people already, I mean, the album hasn't even come out. It doesn't come out till Friday. But a lot of people are already picking up a vinyl copy.
that's awesome. Where can people go? What's your website again? Is it jakereedmusic.com?
That's it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me just play a
Jake
little.
Reed Music.
Let me
I
play
have
the.
a band. I have a Bandcamp page.
Okay, cool.
That people can go to. And then it'll be on all the streaming sites soon enough.
Yeah, yeah. But for now, buy the freaking record, or get it on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me play the last little bit here.
Hmm.
And then, did you? So who wrote the music? I mean, was this because I got the sense when I was reading the bio about it that part of it was recorded over a couple of years, and then the back half of the record was actually just recorded in a day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But the thing is, I wrote all of the compositions.
Okay.
But the thing is, when you're composing instrumental music, some of it's all written out, almost like a piece of classical music or something. But
Right.
there's also a lot of space I left open, throughout the songs. Like in the middle there's like a big guitar solo,
Right.
which I didn't write any of that. That's all Andrew Sinowicz, the guitar player on there. Who's a great session guitar player here in town. And he improvised that entire section. And then the part that happens right after that is there's this great keyboardist, Larry Goldings, I mean, he has a great trio of his own, jazz trio, but he also plays with like James Taylor and John Mayer and
Okay.
a lot of different artists like that. But he totally improvised everything he played on there. I sort of gave him a sort of like a guide track for, or like these are the chord changes.
Right.
This is where I want you to solo. This is where I don't want you to play anything. That kind of thing. So part of it's like composed, and part of it is left open for interpretation by my friends that I got to play on it.
Yeah. Gee, I mean, it's weird. I'm just thinking, and you're probably friends with a lot of drummers. Do drummers ever feel like they, and maybe bass players also, it's sort of like you've got the singer, the guitar player sort of potentially has this pizzazz and flash because they can really guitar solo a lot. And of course there's drum solos, but do drummers ever feel like they're sort of the unsung hero or something?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes drummers, I think it would depend on the drummer, right?
Right.
But I think sometimes drummers feel like they're trying too hard to be the hero. You know? But yeah, I think it's just because there are some drummers who I would say their goal in life is just to be a song drummer. In other words, everything they play is for the song they're playing on. Whereas some drummers want to be like Guitar Hero style drummer, where they're at the forefront of the band.
Right.
So I think it varies for everybody.
Yeah, it feels like, I forgot who told me this, but the best drummers play the song. And I think, go ahead.
I tend to think that.
Yeah. Because I think and I think a lot of times drummers often get the music before a lot of other stuff potentially is down. So I think there's also this sort of foreshadowing. I don't know, talk to me, because I think we've talked about it before, but I do find it interesting where sometimes you're given a track where there's really like nothing going on, and you have to be careful not to sort of overwhelm the track. I mean,
right.
Just sort of explain what you're thinking when you get a song or what are the different ways in which you are presented a song to play on?
Right. So there's a few different ways. Sometimes, for instance, some producers or artists I work for will send me a song that's completely finished, except they have a programmed drum part, and they just want it to feel more human, or they just want me to play on it and kind of put in my 2 cents on how I would play it, because they like my aesthetics or my sound or my tendencies, my sensibilities.
Okay.
So sometimes I get the track and it's completely finished. So it's really easy to get a clear idea of like, okay, this is where I can kind of play out a little bit more, and this is where I need to be like drummer guy in the background.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes though, on the other hand, this just happened the other day. I was working remotely for a guy who's on the East Coast, and he literally sent me him playing acoustic guitar and singing. That was all it was. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna add guitars and bass and keyboards later." So it's kind of up to me to just imagine what's gonna be in that space.
Right.
And part of that is, different producers and artists will give you a reference. Like he was saying, "Oh, this is kind of like Wilco or like the White Album." So when artists are able to give you a clear sense of the sound they're going for, or like the style of drumming they want, then it helps better inform me of exactly what it is I need to do on their song.
Yeah. Well,
so I guess that's what's interesting about doing your own album is you can kind of do whatever you want, right?
Right.
And also, it gave me an opportunity to be sort of more specific about the sounds I wanted to use and just like the vibe I wanted to present,
Did you all along set out to make an album, or did you sort of just start feeling like you were recording some songs, and then before you knew it, you're like, oh wait, I've got some stuff going on, and then why did you decide to meet, I think, with your wife and possibly Cooper to sort of like close out the record? I mean, were you thinking like, oh, we're halfway there, let's try and finish this thing, or what were you thinking?
Right. Well, again, I sort of conceptualized the entire thing before I did it, which doesn't always happen that way, right? But I sort of thought to myself, okay, if this is going to be like my first statement as an artist? What is it I'm going to do that would sort of be like an introduction to what I am or who I am or whatever you want to
Right.
sort of philosophical approach you want to take. So I mean, I don't know. We just listened to AMFN, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the song we just listened to. So there's a great album. Again, since I was talking about how I'm not really sure, like who I am, or like I love playing all these different styles. There's this great comedy album from George Carlin from the '70s called FM and AM. I don't know if you're familiar with that album.
No.
So the front half of the album, before he was like this hippie dad, he was like a real straight-laced, like what they would call white-collar comedian, like where he would do club dates and he was like entertaining all of like the Wall Street businessmen, things like that, like
Right.
doing nothing controversial at all,
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, and before he really became his own thing, that's what he did.
Yeah.
And then the back half of the record is him doing like his new vibe, like I'm doing the controversial, saying what I think, but in a really funny way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not that I'm trying to be that or something, but I kind of took his concept of the front half of the album is one thing, the back half of the album is this other thing. And that's sort of the concept I embraced with doing this album, because that's kind of where I'm coming from as a musician. If you listen to the album, it's like the front half of the album is very produced sounding and versatile, different sounds and grooves, lots of different textures, and very well organized, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like the back half of the album is completely open-ended, improvised jazz.
Which song do you want me to play on the back half?
Oh, that's a good question. How about just the first one? How about Welcome Home?
Welcome Home?
Yeah, not the reprise, but the other one.
Yeah. Got it here. Cool.
Track 5.
It
That's
says
the opening track on the beat.
I have Welcome Home as number 6 on what you sent me. Is that right?
Oh yeah, actually you're right. It's number 6. I
You already forgot. You already forgot, man.
can't even remember what's on my own album.
Here we go. Welcome Home.
Okay.
And I'll probably throw in like the record version into the session so it sounds louder.
Okay. Cool. Great. Thank you.
Who's playing? Is Cooper playing bass?
No, it's this great bass player named Edwin Livingston.
Edward Livingston. All right, cool.
Yeah. And the guitarist is Bruce Foreman.
Okay, cool. Sounds really good.
Thank you.
So your wife must be really proud, I imagine.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's put out 5 or 6 albums under her own name.
So what's the plan? Like, I got a couple of questions I want to ask about Something else I'm thinking, but what's the plan for the record? I mean, are you going to do some shows, or was that the plan, and then all of a sudden it just kind of got ruined, or?
Yeah, well, the plan was the album was originally supposed to come out back in May, and then the pandemic was happening, and I was like, I'm just gonna like wait. And then I have a radio promotion company who kind of helps get the record played on like regional radio stations,
Sure.
like college radio and whatever you want to call it. Um, and they were like, yeah, why don't we put it off until like mid-June?
Okay.
I was like, cool, that sounds fine. And then, everything happened with George Floyd, and
Yeah.
so, and it sort of like coincided with the record release. And the thing is, honestly, like, not to like get too into the subject. I know we're trying to think about just the record, but I'm so influenced by black music and black drummers, and
Yeah.
always have been. So I thought, like, if there's any way that I can get involved in what's going on right now, it would be that when my album comes out on that release day, which is June 19th, which is Juneteenth,
Hmm.
I thought anyone who buys an album from my website or from my Bandcamp page that day, on that day, I'll donate 100% of the sales to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund.
Wow.
And the other thing is, Bandcamp is also doing that. They're donating their share of their revenue that day. So that was sort of like, I was like, that would be a great way to sort of get involved and donate, and also just put out the record and not really delay it anymore.
Yeah.
So that was sort of where I was coming from with it.
No, that's a great homage, and gosh, man, it's even like, I know Led Zeppelin talks about being so influenced by the blues and Willie Dixon,
Yeah,
and just
Howlin' Wolf.
yeah, we think about how influential and powerful that music was. I mean, Bruno Mars came, of course, from James Brown. I mean, it's just
Totally.
and I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It just makes a lot of sense what you're talking about. I mean, that music and back in the, I don't know, the 50s, 60s, 70s.
I mean, just not to give you too much of a history lesson, but
Right.
the instrument I play, the drum set.
Yeah.
The drum set was basically born in New Orleans,
Hmm.
and it came from this amalgam, I guess you want to call it, of drums from different parts of the world, right, and different sounds.
Yeah.
Like the bass drum and the snare drum are primarily, it's a European instrument, right? Both of those instruments are European. But, like tom-toms sort of those are like an African sound. The cymbals are Turkish.
Hmm.
Cowbells and different bells that we play that are percussion instruments, those are all West African instruments. So the thing is, it was all put together in New Orleans, right?
Right.
And pretty much dispersed from there.
Wow.
Diffused, I guess, if you want to say. And that's kind of like, to me, like, it's interesting to think about this, but, if you think about classical music, like Western European classical music,
Mm-hmm.
it all kind of comes from the keyboard, from piano.
Right. Right.
Well, if you think about modern American music, it all comes from the drum set, right? It's all about the groove.
Yeah.
It's all about the pocket and the feel and all these different styles of music. We talk about so much of it having to do with the feeling of the rhythm, right? Which comes from the drums.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think in this, a couple more things, and I'll let you go. But that does sort of, as a helicopter's flying overhead. Sorry, I love tech.
I can't hear it.
Good. I love tech, and I think drum loops are great, and I use them all the time. But it does feel like it's hard to replicate. What a guitar player is doing on a keyboard or like an electronic version of a guitar. But the drum loops and the drum samples can sound really good, and obviously a lot of electronic musicians are using them, but they do still lack that human element that you can't replicate.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see. I don't know like what percentage of music is using loops and samples now as opposed to live drums, but maybe you know better than I just sort of how the humanness of drums has sort of ebbed and flowed over the last 30, 40 years. I don't know. Are we moving?
Right.
Are we moving more towards live drums again, or is it always sort of? Um,
I don't know. I mean, I guess if I had to like try to give my take on it, I would say it's more of a hybrid.
yeah,
You know, I wouldn't say that we're like the pendulum swinging back to only humans playing drums, or it's only swinging toward programmed drums. But I mean, obviously, the vast majority of pop music are programmed drums, right? Samples and whatnot.
right.
Um, but I would say a lot of music, a lot of modern music that isn't necessarily popular, is definitely using a hybrid of the two.
Yeah. And then last question, and I'll let you go. How has COVID-19 impacted your workflow? And I'm curious if I know the movie industry sort of like stopped for a little bit. And I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
are you still getting a lot of calls and emails to put out music, or are people reaching out to you? How has your workflow changed over the last, few months?
Well, there are no live performances, so that is completely
Oh,
stopped.
sure.
Although some people are starting to play live again. I've been seeing it on Facebook. You know, people are streaming gigs now where they're actually playing in public for people.
Hmm.
Um, but in terms of me personally, it's all recording at home now,
Yeah.
which has been, it's actually cool. It's okay. And in some respects, I've been busier than ever, because the other thing is I've just been trying to get everything ready for this album, to put out this record.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work, because I'm not on a record label. I mean, I'm sort of on my wife's record label, which means I still have to do all the work, right?
Right.
Of,
Oh yeah. It's a full.
of getting, like, yeah, just getting the album pressed, mailing it to the radio people, getting it up on all the streaming sites, on my website. Just, there's so many things that music.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's one of the things that I struggle with, just with what technology and social media have done. They sort of have created a world where the artist has to do a lot of that sort of legwork that has nothing to do with creativity.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. So it's sort of like become an exercise in efficiency and time management.
Yes.
Like, how can I just do this stuff as quickly as possible, but also make it really good?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, I definitely front-loaded the work with making the music really good, and that's sort of always been my guiding light of sorts. Is like, if I can just make the music really good, like work on this music as hard as I can, and just give it my all and give it my best shot, then in a way, everything else will take care of itself after that.
Right. Right.
So, and hopefully that actually works, but that was sort of my concept.
Well, yeah, no, I think that's the smart way to go, and I think it worked. I listened to it all weekend. I think you should be really stoked. It's a freaking great album, and I've been a huge fan of you just as a drummer, just meeting you a couple of years ago, and it's funny that I will say, it is challenging though for me. Before I let you go, just because I like being in the room when the guitar player drummer is playing. So, and even I have a mixer mixing a song for me right now, and it's challenging to sort of communicate what you hear in your head and not being in the room. So
Yeah.
it's challenging.
Totally challenging. And some of the songs I did on the record, I wasn't in the room when some of the stuff was recorded, right? But
Yeah.
some of it I was, and some of it we all recorded together as a band at the same time.
Right.
But then some of it was all overdubbed later, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's the 21st century way of making music now. Is back in the '60s, for instance, everyone was just in the same room, and you would just cut the record all at the same time, and then it was done.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
would get mixed, and then that was it. Move on to something else.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that, especially working from home all the time. It's like there's also no deadlines in anything.
Yeah.
If there's nothing pressing about getting it done, or you don't actually book a real studio because they're all closed, there's no sort of poke to like, hey, you need to finish your album or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the other challenge behind all this, is finding ways to hold yourself accountable and just finish the work you set out to do.
Right. Well.
So, anyway, yeah. So that's another reason I was just like, I'm just putting this out. It's going out into the world.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, you just gotta just let it go, and it's gotta go out. Yeah.
Yeah, and just say like, or even just saying something as simple as, this song is finished. I don't need to put anything else on this song. It doesn't need like another shaker part on top of it, or
Right.
an extra layer of guitars. It's
Well,
like finding that right balance of saying like, okay, this song's ready to be
it's
heard.
done. It has enough. Well, Jake Reed, the record's called Read Between the Lines, but REED. There it is. Hold on, let me get a photo. Gotta, as you say, if you don't get photos, it just, the stuff doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I've got my cat in the background scratching. Perfect. Looks good. Hang on, let me post it. Yeah, sometimes when I speak extemporaneously about like my feelings about the world ending, I worry about recording live live episodes of my podcast. But since we only really, just talked about music, and I didn't have to worry about offending anybody, this was fantastic. So
Yeah.
the record's called Read Between the Lines. It's it comes out June 19th, just on your
This Friday.
Okay, like just on your website or everywhere?
Everywhere.
Okay, cool. But you can get it on your website now.
Yeah. Now you can pre-order all the streaming sites Friday, and
Yeah. Well,
it'll
congratulations.
be out in the world officially.
Well,
Thank you.
it's a big deal, man. Congratulations. I'm a huge fan of your playing, and the record sounds great, and I hope people go out and buy it or buy it online. And just the videos you post are really cool and creative, and I just think you're doing some great work. It's really awesome.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
the 21st century of being an artist, right?
I guess so, right? Yeah.
Uh,
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll post this probably in like a week or so. I'll edit it a little bit, but I
Great.
wanted to talk to you about the record, so I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks so much for talking to me about it. I know you're busy too, so thanks for taking time out of your schedule to hang and talk about my music.
Hey, man, it's great. I anything I can do to help people that I like and music or people that I work with or whatever, anything I can do to get their word out, I'm down. So it was great to talk to you. Cool, man. Well,
Great, man.
have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Later,
I'll talk
Jake.
to you soon.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
There we go. Jake Reed, Downward Facing Spiritual Spiral Podcast, another live episode in the books. And I'll edit this one probably in the next like 5 or 6 days, and you'll get the edited version on iTunes and all that stuff. But you can obviously head over to YouTube, type in the Downward Facing Spiritual Spiral Podcast, and have a listen and a watch. So I guess that is it, everybody. Thanks so much, and I will speak